Hello and welcome to another video from Couch Coop or Oscar Cooper. I am doing the top RTS games on PC. Real-time strategy. Couple of rules. This doesn't involve tile-based games, so no Civilization, no Gladius, annoyingly. It's really got to be click and grab, soldiers on the ground, you know the deal. If it's a base builder, even better. Woo, Supreme Commander. We have to go back to 2007 from gas-powered games. Supreme Commander Forged Alliance, which is I think the last collation or the most modern version of this game. Now this game, I remember having a chat with a mate at work, ICBI John, about Supreme Commander on PC back in the day, because it was really huge with what it was trying to do. It was kind of, you know, it was after Dune 2 obviously, but it was still a big deal having this amount of controllable individual vehicles on screen, having a map this size. This game's got up to 500 moving vehicles on map. It's massive and it was a groundbreaker, and this is the most recent purchase of all of these games. You'll realise that as you go down the list, but it's really deservedly at the start, because this is kind of where it all happened, both for me and I think the industry in general really started to move when people realised how cool Supreme Commander was. Command and Conqueror could have gone in this slot. Think about that brand new one that we've had, the reskin, but it's still a bit locked, you know. You still don't get to control individual units, and the size of the map and the freedom that you have with the creativity of how you can go about your build and loadout with this game is really head and shoulders above that stuff. Given its age, it's pretty impressive, and it still stands up against some other RTSs that are brand new, and that's a hell of a acclamation. This footage doesn't really do the game's colossal magnitude justice when it comes to the battles. It's one of the only games on this list that offers land and sea and air battles with proper harbours and naval stations. If you get the chance, the game is still being played competitively on YouTube with like veterans, and they're all amazing at it, and they have like the full vehicle count. So there's 4 players, there's over 2,000 moving pieces on this map. It's friggin' mind-blowing and deservedly amazing that this game is still going strong on an online competitive multiplayer level. The meta of the game is that you're controlling like a commander who is a dude that if he gets assassinated, it's over. That's the mission objective, is you to wade into the opponent's base and kill their commander, be it wherever he is. So there's that bit of vulnerability that it's a single unit that needs to be taken down. There's no real control point system. It's about gathering resources, both kinds, quicker and more efficiently than the other player, and just overwhelming them both with tactics and with marrying up different paper scissors with vehicle types. It's a really cool idea. There's artillery that is ranged. You've also got a large amount of airborne craft that can lift up things. There's a lot of tactics going on here, and there's so much to do on the map when things get going. None of these games on this list are on this list for the campaigns. That's another thing I need to clarify. They're all on here because of their strong skirmish modes, their strong AI within those skirmish modes, and the ability just to play this to the cows come home purely offline with AI. Yeah, I will talk about the multiplayer stuff, but my real selling point for a good RTS is to be able to play a skirmish mode with full skill trees unlocked and research trees unlocked, and just keep bashing that, putting the difficulty up, and really seeing all of the game's units and items and buildings in a singular bout. I spoke about Dune 2 earlier. That game's an anomaly in itself. I mean, there's YouTube videos about how that thing came about, but this is kind of the stage after that where I think the industry really recognized how powerful these games are and how much they can do and how much you can do with them. So Supreme Commander is first on the list, especially that Forged Alliance. Not very expensive either, and does not take a lot of CPU to run. That's another thing. Most of these games, 80% of them can be run on a bare bones machine. I'm getting all of this footage on a Lenovo Legion. The 520, the gaming laptop, it's not even a powerful PC, so bear that in mind when you're looking at it all.
The sector is at war. Its worlds under siege. Chaos spreads, consumes us all. Here, we will make our final stand. Here, there will be retribution.
Freaking love Relics intros. I've spoken about this game before. I do a few Warhammer lists actually. There's a few Warhammer games on this list. This one is a strange case because I nearly put its predecessor, Dawn of War 1, on the list. So nearly. It's such a classic base builder. It was such a huge game and I got every single add-on for it. This one, it was an acquired taste for me. It was a big shock having that hero stuff and the base building taken away. A big shock. By the way, we're looking at this DLC. I play the Marines like religiously, but I did never check the DLCs on the other races. Man, did you see that chaos and these Imperial gas masks, coronavirus? It was awesome to see all the other characters have these amazing free skins. The game's had a lot of updates. I think it's had the Apocalypse update and it's got that Last Stand stuff, which I don't really bother with. Again, I'm straight into that skirmish and I'm loving the amount of AI that you have, and you also have a huge amount of race to choose from. This is a match between me on harder AI playing as Marines and the Chaos. Man, so much hilarious shit goes on in this game. The voices, everything, it's really good, to be fair.
Generator, I shall arrive soon. Advance.
It's also having a bit of a renaissance on its multiplayer. There is people playing it. It's about 500 people playing it at the moment. It's funny. They must be really die-hard fans. Again, this is not a new game. This is, I think, 5 or 6 years old. And of course, Dawn of War 3 is a bit shy. Everyone sort of thought, hang on a minute, Relic were onto something here with the cover mechanic and with the cool micromanagement. So throwing grenades and sort of using specialized equipment and seeing that change in the equipment on game, on map is really awesome. That reminds me of its predecessor, especially when you get the sergeants and your platoon just starts getting more badass. You get las cannons in, or you see a switch to vehicle, everybody starts going to missile launchers. There's a lot of depth with this game, and the model itself, with capturing the points, as you can see on the map down there in the bottom left, I started to grow to this idea. Point capturing and not just base annihilation is slightly more interesting, and I must add that there is an annihilation mode put in this, meaning that you can just charge the opponent's base, which is sometimes a preferred method of purge.
Become available. Target acknowledged.
The vehicles, their special types, the Terminators, the Dreadnoughts. Oh man, it really does do a lot of fan service. The models and the little details on all of the captains and the commanders are absolutely amazing. And I'm just perving over the Marines, you know. There's Tyranids, there's Eldar, there's Orc. There's so much of this game. Look at the way he throws him. Do you remember him at the intro? This game is so badass. The kill animations are still brilliant. Again, they were in the original. And this has got the actual retreat technique. And this is going to come up again in a minute. Basically, you can get troops to run back to your base and not take damage technically on a button command. By the way, is the Chaos Predator turning up. My Predator just turns up in the nick of time. Stuff like that just happens a lot. Look at it. It's brilliant. It's got to be about, what, £15 at the moment. If you've never visited this in your Inter RTS, and 40k, get down there.
Our victory is ours.
Okay, sticking with Relic and an almost identical game model, right, with that Dawn of War 2, it's Company of Heroes 2, which is again very focused, well, its base game is focused on point capturing, but I need to tell you something about this. I've been playing as the Russians for probably about 2 years on this game, and I reluctantly brought the British troops, and I looked at how much it cost, and it was like 15 quid, and I was like, this game's a decade old, why is that? Anyway, I got it, had to. I thought it was a skin. I thought it was just a reskin, and I would have exactly the same options in those windows down, and nothing is the same. I was gobsmacked. It's brilliant. It's like having a little different version of the game, having a different army. So they must all be vastly different. I'm showing my ignorance there. I've never played as the Germans, but I've played as the Russians and the English now, and they're just, even down to the vehicle trees and sets, absolutely amazing. I was so impressed, and I'm so impressed with the game, the way it looks and runs still. It's beautiful.
Infantry squad trained and ready to go.
Again, we're working with the setup where we don't have to massively base build here, but we do have to upgrade existing structures. And we do get the chance to go down to really in-depth skill trees with what the soldiers are equipped with, what weaponry weapons the tanks are going to have on them, even down to the engineers and how your medics work, whether they're going to be perked in certain directions. So mind-boggling. This is so cool. I often watch the replays. There's a lot of replay footage of these games, and I slow it down. This offers you a half speed, and I love to look at how a battle panned out, if I won, won, I want to see why I won, and if I've made mistakes, I want to see how they got round me and stuff. And I keep clicking the speed down just to see all these little beautiful dust mechanics and hear what they have to say, and all the dying animations. It's mad. I remember when this game was very new, because Company of Heroes, the original, was a big hit, and the follow-up, it was quite anticipated. And I remember before I owned a decent PC, saw an advert for the second one, and it was basically the developers going to a German tank museum and recording the noises of just about everything in there. And I was so taken aback that they were looking at reproducing all of those aesthetics with so much passion. It was mad. And look at the funny physics on it, the stuff rolling around. But let me just talk about, again, the meta. We're looking at a point control system, and we're looking at controlling points that offer us perks in regards to stuff like ammunition and fuel. And fuel's really important. You can't build your tanks without them. And basically this whole game is about gearing towards mechanizing your army and getting as many tanks and massive guns out there as possible.
Outside. Good shooting. Target out of action.
This game has an incredible campaign that needs to be mentioned. I neglect it. I love the skirmish, picking who I'm going to fight, giving the AI a rank, and sort of really settling in with the game and not having too much pressure. I've never played it online, and I have watched some of the top players. Again, recently, this is getting played as well, and it's so cool. It's really funny. One of the things is that the game really is about plate spinning, and if you try and spin too many plates, i.e. have too much going on your battlefield, you're going to just get lost in the micromanagement, and so you have to meet this middle ground of using the hotkey system, which is the quick links on the right there, which we saw in Dawn of War 2, where you can go to platoons very quick, automatically hotkeys everything. You can actually play this game just on a mouse without having to even go to the keyboard. I know some people who take it seriously are going to be like, how the fuck does he play it like that? I'm lazy. What I'm also getting ingeniously is a beautiful bit of progression that's embedded into the skirmish system. Every match I win, I'm ranking up a bit and getting new skins and new cool little commanders to choose from each time I'm playing it. So I'm really into this at the moment. It's like my go-to RTS, because I want to get that cool new skin for my Tiger tank, etc. It's pretty amazing. And you get to kick the ass of Nazis time and time again. Like, the way that they get blown out of the vehicles is just pure bliss. Again, we're not looking at huge amounts of money, and we're not looking at huge amounts of CPU to run the game. I thoroughly recommend everybody look at this. If you're remotely a fan of the Second World War or core military RTSs, this is one of the best available. Company of Heroes 2.
Target smashed. Under fire. Huns in a half track. Fuckers.
I think this is the newest game on the list. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but I think it might be. And a strange story with me, I've had early access to this game, and it didn't have a campaign with it. It had a survival mode, which I got hooked on, which was kind of like an RTS roguelike, where you get plonked in a randomly generated map, starting from the beginning with the game, and you make your way through waves, or days, as the game puts to you. And you have a countdown. You can see day 16 there, this is right at the start, and you just have to fend for yourself, get everything going, and get your walls up, and get ready for the apocalypse. And I just don't know why it has not been done before. Is a zombie apocalypse RTS. Jesus, this is one of the best. One of the best. Gotcha. All the rules are here. All the cool stuff is here that make you feel at home. It's got this amazing individual troop management system. It's got such a cool idea with the elements and the stone and the trees and the food. Everything comes together. You get the money increased if you start to develop things like banks and mercenaries, and wow, even the walls can be upgraded to towers, and there's milliguns and all kinds of stuff. Late game, on this is mind-blowing. I'll show you a little bit of mid-game, but here's the crux. I'm terrible at it. I've never actually survived the full 120 days, which is what you've got to do to get the new maps open. Everyone who plays is like, oh, the campaign, da 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 da. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm still on level 1, smashing into this beautiful brick wall, which is known as... They are billions' survival game. I could just put it on easy. I'm not going to do it. I love it. I love repeat, and just get more efficient at fighting this apocalypse. It's the modelling on everything that keeps me interested. How well detailed everything is when you start scrolling in. And I'm always knocked back at how far I can scroll back and almost look at my whole base. I just got a radar unlocked on this particular level, and it basically just opened up the entire map in the bottom left, and I realised that there's the biggest blob of zombies you've ever laid eyes on, literally around the corner of my ill-defensed base. So I think the panic ensued, the countdown starts. Also, you get a warning of where the direction of the wave is coming from. So you kind of spend the whole time doing the minimum. When the warning comes in, that's when you're like, holy shit, I've got to get it. And of course, this sort of stuff happens.
Just tell me what to do.
I like the idea of the tech. So you can get ballistas put in, you can get these little wasp machine guns put in, and then I like the idea of how the waves change. So there's these big dudes on this particular wave, but you get these witches. There's definitely a Left 4 Dead nod here, what with bloaters, and then there's ones that can run really quickly. So it's not just mundane stuff pouring through a gap. You have to start dealing with different zombies in different ways. It's very good, this. Think about it now, there's only a couple of games left, so this beats some real classics. It needs to be looked at because it's not huge AAA, and again, I don't think it got enough attention when it came out because it's got a console release now as well, which is only good news.
Reporting for duty. Damn it!
Not offering multiplayer, unfortunately, but for a zombie apocalypse real-time strategy indie, relatively cheap game, this is a no-brainer, pun intended. Look at the state of my base now. That is one lapsed bit of concentration there. But again, I'll restart. I don't care. I'm sure I can do something differently to prevent this next time, he says. Yes, finally, a Total War game. The RTS experienced fans among you are probably thinking, what the hell, where is the Total War? Here is the Total War 2. Okay, Age of Empires, all that stuff. I much prefer the Warhammer canon. I think this game is so cool. I think it's the most expensive on the list as well, and it's probably relatively new in regards to updates and DLC. I mean, it's got a very, very healthy online multiplayer player base, but it isn't simple. And one of the things I would advise about this game is do your homework with it. It's all about marrying up troop types on the battlefield with what they're weak and strong against. You need to know what you're doing, what you're buying, and where you're buying it. But look at the size of this army!
The Azure do not forget, and we never forgive.
What I mean when I say homework is relentlessly play the skirmish mode with the AI and work everything out the hard way. That's the fun with me in this game, is just working it all out. It's so good when you get it right. You know, it can be a frustrating game. A lot's going on at the same time. That's one of the things, is this is like two waves coming together simultaneously. Sometimes the micromanagement is just not available. You need to make sure everything was put in the right place at the start. But it's got so much replayability on all levels, especially having a look at your bouts afterwards. On a loss, I'll sort of reverse engineer everything on the replay and work out, you know, why things went wrong. Look at this Skaven here that gets caught in the middle. When things go right, it's nothing short of sublime, and I think this is easily the best looking game on the list. It does chug my system. I'm not going to show you my settings because it's a little bit embarrassing, but if you own a large PC and want to see what your machine can do, then look no further than this game. To people who are running a similar rig as me, I can cope with this, it's fine. I love the slowdown mechanics on the replays, and I don't see any sufferable issues when I go into that, and I certainly don't see any major frame rate issues when I'm playing the game. One of the things I wanted to point out is, of course, the micromanagement on your heroes or lord characters. They are so badass, and they will take on a whole goddamn army if you allow them to. Here's some of the reflections and some of those ragdoll mechanics and slowdown physics and design on some of the Skaven, especially the Skaven bosses. And look at this dude. It really excels with different map types. There's siege quests and there's huge bits of terrain and forest that could hide half your bloody army. There's also a very healthy campaign as well. Hold on, look at this dragon. This dragon just goes, right, have it. There'll be tiny scenes in battles that you won't spot when you're actually knee deep in it, but when you go back in and have a look at it all, it's absolutely fantastic. And it's so cool that they took all that time with the fighting animations on the big monsters and all the little ragdoll physics and noises. The game also has quite a lot of humor as well. You'll hear some really crazy stuff. Check these bikini clad dark elves doing a U-turn. So Warhammer Total War 2 is number 2 on my top RTS list. And of course, I wasn't gonna not put a Blizzard game in here. I mean, I had a lot of choice with Warcrafts, right? The older ones. But yeah, my oldest, most fondest memory with a PC was with StarCraft 1 on a local area network, and really seeing the joy of how an RTS can be deep and competitive, almost blow to blow. Playing this game against someone else is like nothing on earth. It really isn't, because of the amount of decisions you're having to make on the fly and how much tactical and intelligence you're jostling. You only need to look at 2010 up to about 2015 when this game was in peak popularity to see how much was going on in the industry, especially over in South Korea, and just the champions, the money. It's so crazy. It's so old as well, and it's so good to have this at the top of the list. I've gone really full circle with this channel because this was one of the first games I ever wanted to talk about when I was a young gamer. I always was like, StarCraft 2 is the best thing I've ever played, and it's kind of still the case, certainly with RTSs. I try and push it onto everybody. One of my favorite things is that the commentator, but hold on. Not mucking. One of my favorite things is not mucking around with the commentators' voices, but one of my favorite things is that I managed to purchase Total Biscuit's commentary for my game. So, you know, the voice that's over the UI. Well, it's so amazing to have a really awesome deceased YouTuber still with you, you know, in spirit when you play StarCraft 2. That one is just amazing. It reminds me of a story of a kid that had a ghost car on his console that his dead dad had set a time on. Yeah, and he kept it. He didn't beat it. He always went back to it. Turned out the dad had been letting off the accelerator on the final stretch, letting him win. Yeah, I deleted the time after that. It's not official, is it? It's not official if you're not trying. Replays on this game, funnily enough, take me back years. I've still got games that I've lost with people. We're not going to mention the names. Grudge matches. Years of smashing into each other on this game. In actual fact, he was my apprentice. Yeah, turned into a complete unruly StarCraft champion. He didn't go professional. He could have done though. If he could beat me, he could have done. Again, we're back. I'm crap at this game. I'm only in skirmish. Never climbed the ladder. But everybody knows its strengths. It's just a mammoth. And it's had this really cool patch lately, which has given you some, I know it doesn't sound like much, but there's some new colours, the frame rates are really crisp now. Everything has just been optimised, it's looking beautiful, sounding and looking beautiful. What is its meta game? How would you explain StarCraft 2 to someone who's just never thought to get into the RTS? Well, it's kind of the holy trinity. The Zerg, the Protoss, and the Terran are probably the most balanced RTS races in any retail game. The polish on their nuances with what they have and how they can utilize them within the game's parameters is unrivaled, man. I am so knocked back at how good the AI is, and that brings me on to the Google DeepMind stuff, which you guys should look at, i.e. this game is used to test AI currently because of the amount of decisions that the machine would have to make on the fly and the changes in tactics. No other software really, other than chess, offers the amount of proverbial spinning plates that this does. It's a real test for a machine. It's very interesting to look into that. But other than Skynet, the meta game really isn't that dramatic. It's all kind of straight down the middle, and that's the joy of it. You know where you are with StarCraft 2. It's not pulling any crazy punches with magic attacks that can reach across the other side of the map. Nukes maybe go into that bracket, but it's going to stay around, I think. Bless it. It's a Trojan. It's a damned veteran. It's a grisly old RTS that's just had a nice new lick of paint for 2020, and I thoroughly recommend anyone who's not looked at this to go and get it. It was free, I think, even base game, and I've not really got my head round the new Legacy of the Void units. I'm still on Swarm units trying to work out what the frig the Liberators are all about. So yeah, that just gives you an idea of how wet behind the ears I am with this game after 11 years. Hopefully that gives you a sign of its depth as well. So it was a joy to be able to put this at the top of a list finally after 5 years on the channel and more than 5 years of unrivaled love for one of the best RTS games available on the market. Blizzard's StarCraft 2, an absolute titan.
We could use some help here.